फर्स्ट वॉल्यूम का जो चैप्टर है व्हाट वी चैप्टर वी वर डूइंग लास्ट we are done. Question, did we finish?
Yes.
We are already finished. We finished with some questions also. So now, which chapter? Our environment you want to complete or what chapter? Heredity करना है.
Heredity का
तो heredity what which chapter you want to know? Heredity चाहिए. What about you all?
हमारे बहुत दूर है और
कौन सा चैप्टर हो या
रिप्रोडक्शन
अच्छा वो चैप्टर आ रहा है. How many of you have listen here? Pass. अभी next exam सबसे पहले जुलाई में किसका exam है? जुलाई में है तो exam
अरे तो हम लोग का कोर्स कंप्लीट हो गया
क्वेश्चन एग्जाम कंट्रोल कोऑर्डिनेशन तक है एंड फिर नेक्स्ट अगस्त क्या है
August end में
अगस्त 4th first क्वेश्चन अच्छा हेरिडिटी को करना है इस तरह
29
So now, since you all have your exams earlier, so heredity start करना पड़ेगा. So we complete that chapter, and then we move on to the chapter on modes of reproduction. Okay? So वाले नहीं चाहिए. पहले तो समझो concept समझो पहले. Now, what is the concept of heredity that we have to understand is here we are studying a concept of biology where the basic inheritance of characteristics, the transfer of characteristics you have to understand. Heredity, as I start talking about, number one, what is genetics? What is meant by genetics? It's a branch of science. It's a branch of science which deals with the study of genes. A branch of science which deals with the study of science. Here, so many are absent today. Full exam then. That is which total it is. Total is absent, no? What is inheritance? Inheritance means passing over of the characteristics from parents to next generation. Okay. So now that I talk about what is the meaning of this word inheritance, matlab passing over of the characteristics. Passing over of the characteristics. And genetics is a branch of science where we study about the genes and the alleles. Okay, we are going to learn now what are genes, what are alleles. What are genes that you already know? What are genes? What is the definition of that word? Genes क्या है?
chemically specified DNA उसको है
नाइन्थ में पढ़ के आए हो ना genes? What are genes? What is the definition? Genes क्या है?
I'm not interested chemically
हाँ डालो क्या
specified
वहाँ से फेंक दूँगी.
chemically
What is the definition of genes? 10th standard,
Chemically
9th standard में पढ़ा है. That's why I expect that you know it.
just inheritance
और कितना लंबा बोलेगा baseless. What is genes? नहीं वो तो characteristics ही हो गया. That is character. What is genes? When we talk about, again, remember, genes is a small segment of the DNA. What is genes? It's a small segment of the DNA, and this segment of the DNA is responsible for a character that we show, a characteristic that we show. Now, here, let us start this way. I just now mentioned what is inheritance? The process of transfer of characteristics from parents to offspring. So let us start with this definition: inheritance, the passing over of characteristics. The passing over of characteristics from parents to offsprings. From parents to offsprings. When I say offsprings, always means the next generation. Parents to offsprings. Now, characteristics where I would say to understand the concept of characteristics, we'll again have to refer to the cell. एक cell है. What is inside the cell? Fine, long, thread-like structures. What are these fine, long, thread-like structures known as?
Chromosomes.
Chromatin or chromosomes. So I would say that these fine, long, thread-like structures, what will we call this as? We will call this as chromatin fibers. The fine, long, tangled, thread-like structure known as chromatin fibers. These chromatin fibers, when they become condensed and thicker, we talk about this as chromosome. This same long thread-like structure, when the cell is maturing and when the cell is in the process of division, on the verge of division, this long thread-like structure अभी सुनो समझो नहीं तो ये पूरा सिर के ऊपर जाएगा. We are studying genetics for the first time. So now when we are talking about chromatin fibers, ये chromatin fibers generally remain long, tangled if a cell is young, a newly formed cell. And when the cell is mature, it will become condensed and thick like this. Now, what do we call this as? This is chromosome. Then what is the definition of a chromosome? Extensively condensed chromatin threads. Because what are chromosomes? How should you define that word? What is the meaning of that word? Chromosome, extensively condensed. Condensed मतलब oil, एकदम compact हो जाना. Extensively coiled chromatin fibers. Extensively coiled chromatin fibers are chromosomes. Now, what is present inside the chromosome? I want to know what is there inside the chromosome. एकदम चुपचाप बैठो. गलत है. Now, when we are talking about chromosomes, now when we are talking about chromosomes, try understanding. If I want to know that what is there inside the chromosome, what is there inside the chromosome? Two fine thread-like structures known as DNA in the form of a ribbon, in the form of a thin thread-like structure. So inside this chromosome, I want to know that what is inside. There is a helical ribbon-like structure, something like this, and this helical means curved. This helical ribbon-like structure, which is inside the entire length of the chromosome, that is what is known as DNA. So this ribbon-like structure, which is present inside the chromosome, or I would say this is the chemical composition of the chromosome. What is the full form of DNA? The full form of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. All of you will write this down in your notebook. What is the full form of DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid. No, this is only for your understanding. If you want to draw, that's your choice. So when we are talking about DNA, what is DNA? It is the chemical composition. You get question in your paper. The chemical composition of chromosome. What is it? The chemical composition of chromosome is the gene? No, it is the DNA. Chemical composition of chromosome is the DNA, which is in the form of two strands, two fiber-like structures, two thread-like structures joined by bonds. And now when I try understanding that what is this particular region of the DNA, the entire region or the entire DNA will be made up of certain units. There are some repeating units all throughout the length of the DNA. So I would say that the entire length of the DNA will have certain units. This is the first part of the chapter on reproduction also. So I am talking about this right now. Remember there when I talk about, don't be blank and don't look at me as if I am a weird person. So now try to remember these concepts there also. So I'm saying that this is the DNA, a ribbon-like structure present inside the chromosome, which is made up of repeating units. Repeating units, when I'm saying, meaning what? Say suppose I talk about carbohydrate. When I say carbohydrate, you understand now that it is made up of glucose. When I say protein, you should understand that it is made up of amino acids. Same like that. When I say DNA, that is also made up of some repeating units. तो ये repeating unit का composition भी होता है, नाम भी है. Only the name you understand. Composition for the time being you all don't need. What are the repeating units of the DNA molecule known as nucleotides? जैसे carbohydrate is made up of glucose, protein made up of amino acid. उसी तरह, if I have to talk about what is the DNA made up of, hundreds and hundreds of repeating units known as the nucleotide. Abhi, I want to know that what is this part of the DNA? What is its job? What is this part of the DNA? What is this part of the DNA's function? What is this part of the DNA function? Every single region of the DNA has a specific function to perform. Then what is this specific region of the DNA is known as what? This particular region of the DNA is known as gene. Every small segment of the DNA that I have marked, every small segment of the DNA that I have marked, that is known as a gene. But now I would say that these particular segment of the DNA, maybe it is responsible for our height. This particular segment of the DNA, maybe this is responsible for our eye color. This first particular region of the DNA or this gene, maybe this is responsible for the shape of your ear, etc., etc., etc. Now, here I am talking about, this is what we talk about as characteristics. What is characteristics? Characteristics in the concept of biology means every particular anatomical feature that we show, physiological feature that we show. What is the meaning of physiological feature? How much of the hemoglobin, how much of the enzyme, how much of the pepsin, how much of the growth hormone, etc., etc. Now that we know the hormones also, that is also because of the gene. And the behavioral features, that is also because of the gene. Behavioral features as in, behavioral features like, why do you love traveling and why don't you love music? Why do you love drawing and why don't you love reading? That is also because of the genes. So now, characteristics, the moment I am talking about, we are going to now talk that in detail. I said that what is the gene there? It is a segment of the DNA which is controlling a particular character. Certain characteristics we can see, certain characteristics we cannot see. How much of the hemoglobin produced in our body, can we see that? No, we cannot. But what is the shape of the eyes, nose, color, that we can see. So what are the different type of characteristics? The characteristics that we are talking about. Characteristics can be of three types. So what is the definition of the word character? Say if I basically if I try to understand basically character, basic English meaning में character क्या होगा? हाँ, चरित्र हो गया. Something like how rude a person, how sober a person, exactly. Exactly. But biology में that is not the character only. Eye color is a character, texture of your hair is also a character. Behavioral features, what we like, what we don't like, that also is a character. The type of the enzyme hormone produced in our body, that also is a character. Okay? So now, what is a character and how is a character regulated? So अब तक मैं क्या बोल रही थी? I said the DNA is the chemical composition of chromosomes. What is DNA? It is a complex molecule. It's a chemical composition. DNA is a complex molecule, so that is the reason it is also known as a macromolecule. DNA is also a complex molecule. hence also known as a macromolecule. And since it's a chemical molecule, definitely it is made up of certain units. तो क्या है उसके units? Nucleotides. अब जो पूरा DNA filament है, the entire DNA strand, if we divide into small sections, हर एक section को क्या बोलेंगे? Genes. Then what is the definition of the word gene? We will have to write this. What is a gene? Functional segment of the DNA. Write down. What is the definition of the word gene then? How should you define this word gene? Gene is a functional segment of the DNA. Functional segment of the DNA molecule that regulates a character. That regulates a specific characteristic. या तो character भी लिख सकते हो. So I talk about what is a gene then. What is a gene? What is the definition of a gene? Functional segment of the DNA that controls a specific characteristic. आया समझ में? So this is the basic definition of the word gene. Now, ये हमारा cell, the nucleus. How about the chromosomes? How many chromosomes we have in our?
26. 46.
46. 23 pairs. So how do we draw the chromosomes? We always draw the chromosomes like this. Q. I talk about one chromosome. How do we draw this chromosome? This is one and this is another. ये जो paired chromosome है, why the paired condition? Why the chromosomes are always in pairs? We say also no 23 pairs. Why pairs?
Because one is X and one is Y.
अरे तुम X and Y के आगे से बोल
मैथ बहुत अच्छा गलत सीखा है तू वो प्लान करना ना कोई तो XY का सीएस ना XY के बारे में बात करें
माइक्रोसिस म्यूजिक कहाँ पे था?
हाँ एक में था
Now, try understand. We are not talking about X and Y. Now here, I am talking about a pair of chromosomes. We are talking about a pair of chromosomes. And the 23 pairs that we say, why the 23 pairs? Because during the process, now that we talk about the concept of heredity, we are also understanding this pair is formed because of the process of fertilization. Now I would say that this pair, out of this pair, one is the paternal chromosome and one is the maternal chromosome. Why the pairs? The pairs, why do we write pairs? 23 pairs. या तो first pair and the third pair and the sixth pair and the ninth pair. What is the meaning of that? Every chromosome that we have in our cell is paired because formed by the process of fertilization, where every pair contains one paternal and one maternal chromosome. Clear? Now, when we write this pairs of chromosome inside, these pairs of chromosomes are very much there inside our nucleus. Now we try understanding that what is the relation of these pairs of chromosome and then gene and then those characteristics. So I would say that this pairs of chromosome we write, just now I mentioned paternal and maternal. So for understanding easier, we always draw sticks like this, which also indicates a pair of a chromosome. Every time we may not draw this way, a pair of chromosome. But in this pair of chromosome, I may say, yes, this is one gene. So I'm saying that this is one gene, and this gene may be, this is a gene responsible for one particular color, one particular character, eye color. Let us start with this example now. I'm talking about a pair of chromosome, a segment of a chromosome. What is the segment of a DNA or a chromosome known as gene? And this gene is now responsible for the eye color. Now, if I talk about that a gene is responsible for an eye color, this character eye color in the human population, I talk about for us. I'm just selecting one very simple example. I'm saying that one gene responsible for eye color. But this eye color, is it the same in the human population?
No.
Same hai? Nahi hai. What are the common
Brown.
types we see?
Black and
Brown and black and brown and black and blue. नहीं, these are all mutant. ये सारे recessive and mutant variety. We are not talking about mutant right now. Mutant मतलब जो थोड़ा defective gene alteration होके जो होता है, उसको बोलेंगे mutant. Abnormal नहीं. Vision is clear, vision is okay, but then ये proper gene से नहीं हो रहा है. मतलब if I have to put it very simple, when genes undergo some alteration, जीन में सब कुछ चेंजेस होके जब द कलर इज फॉर्म उसको बोलेंगे म्यूटेंट और म्यूटेटेड आई कलर. सो राइट नाउ वी आर ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट द नॉर्मल रेगुलर आई कलर. नॉर्मल रेगुलर आई कलर इन ह्यूमन पॉपुलेशन which are the ones brown है, black है and blue है, even not green. So these are the three major eye colors. So now I take that these gene, one particular gene regulates eye color. But this eye color has got different forms. Which are the different forms I select now, and which is more prevalently seen in the human population? So I would say brown hair, black hair, and blue hair. Understand step by step. I'm saying that this particular character. So ये eye color क्या हो गया? This eye color is a character. Eye color is a character. One gene can regulate a character, yes, but the character is present in the population in different forms. So what are these forms of the character known as? The variable forms of a character. What are the variable forms of a character known as? The variable forms of a character will be known as traits. What are these known as? This is known as traits. Is this clear? Check. I'm saying I selected one particular gene, maybe now in the 9th chromosome. For example, it's not a perfect thing that I'm talking about. Maybe in our cells, in the 9th pair of chromosome, I come across a gene which is regulating eye color. ये एक character है, eye color is a character, texture of hair another character. The shape of the eyes, nose, एक character है. The amount of the pepsin, growth hormonic character है. Already I mentioned. So I am talking about that these gene is regulating the eye color. So this is the character. But the eye color is existing in different forms: brown, black, blue. तो ये variable forms of the character को क्या बोलेंगे? Traits. एक particular character in the human population never exists in only one form. It exists in variable forms. तो वो variable form of the character को हमेशा traits. What is the definition of the word trait? Write down. Definition of the word traits: the alternate forms. Traits, alternate form of a character. Alternate form of a character. Alternate form of a character. Done. Alternate form of a character. For example, you can write down also. Example, eye color है. Take one example so that later when you study, you are not forgetting this link, so that you are able to connect very fast, able to understand. Now, when I'm talking about the concept of gene again, let us start from here. The gene, one particular gene is controlling the eye color, which is a character. This eye color has got variable forms. and this is what we talk about as traits. So if this eye color has variable forms, so don't we understand, should not we understand this way that the gene also should be having variable forms, no? एक particular gene तीन तरह के कैरेक्टर को कैसे रेगुलेट कर सकता है? एक particular gene एक कैरेक्टर को रेगुलेट कर रहा है, but then this particular character has so many forms. So obviously the gene also must be having variable forms. So what are the variable forms of the gene known as? The variable forms of the gene are known as alleles. What are alleles? Alternate forms of a gene. What are alleles? Likho. These definitions are very important. Definition of gene, definition of allele. Now next is allele. Alternate forms of a gene. Alternate forms of a gene. Whenever you are not understanding, you will have to raise questions. Otherwise, I take it for granted that you are following. Alleles, alternate forms of a gene that regulate different traits of the same character. That regulate different traits of the same character. Different traits of the same character. Now, if this is understood that there will be many such genes like this in a pair of chromosomes, one gene regulating the eye color, another gene regulating the hair color, another gene regulating the hair texture, another gene regulating the skin tone. Now if I ask you, now that I have been talking about eye color and I said eye color has got 3 forms, does the hair texture also has got any traits? If you have understood, can you tell me 1 or 2 traits of the hair texture?
Yes. Oily, curly,
Silky, straight, wavy, curly, etc. No? Skin tone also there are so many variable forms.
black.
Skin tone also there are so many variable forms, dark, whitish, fair, and so many tones. Right now sitting here all of us, if you have to match our skin tone, it will hardly match, 2 of us will hardly match the skin tone. So slight fine differences are there. So now that we talk about this, these are just examples to remember what I am speaking. So I am saying eye color, different traits. Now let us talk about certain pairs of chromosomes. Now I talk about certain pairs of chromosomes. Similarly, I may talk about the 9 pairs. How do we write down these alleles? Alleles are always written in letters. Alleles are always written in letters. So I may say these different alleles. How do I write? I would use capital B for brown, BL for black, and small b for blue. For example, alleles are always written in letters or in numbers. Okay? So now for designating a letter to each of these, I have used certain letters. Now I want to see that how would be the allele of eye color arranged in chromosome pairs of different individuals. Let me take some 4 examples. I would say in one individual, I get to see that the alleles are, last line can you see? Yeah, maybe I write. Now, say suppose I talk about, this is the first, so I come across in one individual, I get to see the color of the, now we are analyzing the color. Just try to follow and answer these questions. Then partly you have understood the concept. What am I drawing? We are talking about 4 individuals. And in these 4 individuals, the same 9th pair of chromosome I am studying here. But the arrangement of the alleles in different individuals different. Check now. वही same gene है, but arrangement of alleles for the same character different है. But now when found, what is the eye color? It is found that this person has eye color brown. This person has eye color brown. What about this?
Black or black.
This person also has eye color brown. This person also has eye color brown. This person will have eye color black. When will a person have blue eye color? Only when a condition something like this. Check if this is understood first. Now, ये rule है. ये rule हर जगह तुम्हें apply करना पड़ेगा. Now, what is the concept that you understand? The concept is that whenever we are talking about a pair of chromosomes like this, where two similar alleles, identical है ना?
Yes.
Both the alleles are same. When in a pair of chromosomes, the two alleles are exactly same. This type of a condition is known as homozygous condition. This is known as a homozygous condition. What is it? A pair of chromosomes where the alleles are exactly identical. Ya to similar. These are the words that you can use. Alleles are identical or similar. Easy hai? Go to the next one. Is the situation same like previous?
No.
Abhi, I would say in this condition, in the next individual, the alleles for the gene are dissimilar, non-identical है. या तो contrasting भी बोलेंगे इसको, contrasting या तो non-identical. अगर ऐसा है, then what is the situation? This is known to be a heterozygous condition. So what are we learning? Alleles can be homozygous, alleles can be heterozygous. So abhi heterozygous matlab you understand what is the meaning of heterozygous, when the alleles are contrasting ya to dissimilar. Now tell me, what should I write for this? Ye hai heterozygous. And now what about this? Heterozygous, and this is homozygous again. But now, when I talk about, now this is clear, no? What is homozygous and what is heterozygous, this is clear. Now, when I talk about the first and the last condition, what is the difference? Both are homozygous. First and last condition different क्या है? In the first condition, हाँ color तो different है ही. In the first condition, I have written capital letters for the allele, and ये homozygous है. The last condition there, I had written lowercase alphabet, small letters for the allele, and यहाँ पे भी हमने homozygous लिखा. So that means homozygous always means same alleles. So when we write small letters, what is the meaning? Small letters means this type of a condition means it is recessive homozygous. And this type means it is dominant homozygous. Now we try understanding what is dominant and recessive. Dominant का मतलब क्या है? More powerful, correct. More powerful. No, dominant always means more powerful. So कैसे? If capital B, which is a allele, which is powerful than this, and this is powerful than this. Why do I write this way? In human population and in any animal or plant, जो sequence of alleles होती है, they always show a hierarchy. एक से दूसरा dominant. It always goes like this. In a sequence it goes. So for this example, a simple example that I picked up, ये सबसे ज़्यादा dominant है. This is the most powerful combination or a composition. इससे थोड़ा सा कम powerful ये है और इससे कम powerful ये है. Now you have to always remember, when will this allele for brownness start expressing? When will this allele for brownness express? When it is together, then also it is expressing. When it is with this allele, then also it is expressing. When it is with this allele, when it is with this allele, then also it is expressing. So this particular allele is expressing always. The allele for brownness is expressing always with whichever allele it is present. And that is the reason why the brown eye color is so prevalent in human population. When I talk about 10 out of, 10 individual, 6 out of 10 will always have the brown eye color. You may check your eye colors, most of you will have brown. Of course, it will depend on your parents' characteristics also. So out of 10 individuals, 6 will always have brown, 3, 4 will have black, and 1 out of the 10 may have blue, may not have blue, not necessarily. So I would say maybe 2 out of 20 or 2 out of 50 will have blue eye color, because such type of a situation is quite rare. Coming together of the recessive allele in both the chromosome is quite a rare condition. But this type of conditions are quite common that we easily find. And on top of that, what is the reason that this allele is expressing? Because it can express with any allele you put together, because it is the most dominant composition. What am I speaking here now? I am saying, what is the meaning of, first of all, the concept of homozygous and heterozygous? What is the meaning? When for a gene, the alleles are identical, homozygous hai. Alleles are non-identical, heterozygous. Second thing I am speaking is, if it is a dominant composition, it will express in the homozygous condition also. Homozygous hai, तभी भी इसका eye color brown है. Heterozygous hai, then also the eye color is brown. Why? Because brown is the dominant allele. Okay, let me talk about black. Can you tell me now, under what type of a allele combination a person will have black eye color?
Black and brown.
Black.
ऐसे तो नहीं हो रहा है. कैसे हो पाएगा? ऐसे हो पाएगा? ऐसे हो पाएगा black? हाँ, ऐसे होगा, क्योंकि this is a powerful allele as compared to this. दोनों black होगा तो black ही होगा eye color. If I put this, then it is not brown, then the eye color is black. ठीक है? So when will this black allele express? तो chromosome में है तब तो express होगा ही. But how do we write down the allele pairs now? The allele pairs are also written like this. I may write this way. What is the eye color? Tell me.
Brown.
Brown. When I write this way.
Brown.
When I write this.
Black.
आया समझ में? So these are the different combinations that we write down. So homozygous, heterozygous clear. What are the different types of homozygous? Homozygous dominant हो सकता है, या तो homozygous recessive हो सकता है. Heterozygous only one type. And now we are talking about what is the meaning of a dominant allele. A dominant allele is one which expresses in presence of any contrasting allele. Dominant allele is one which will express in presence of any contrasting allele. इसके साथ होगा then also. इसके साथ होगा then also it is expressing. If I put this way, what is the eye color? This is brown now. Clear, no? All these concepts. So now that I talk about all the different types, homozygous, heterozygous. First of all, remember the definitions. लिखो. Homozygous condition is what? Did you write homozygous condition? Wrote homozygous, heterozygous. Then write down these two definitions now. What is a dominant allele? नहीं लिखा. Homozygous, what are you supposed to write? Homozygous condition is what?
Similar.
When pair of chromosome contains two identical alleles. When pair of chromosome contains two identical alleles for a gene. Two identical alleles for a gene. It is homozygous. Heterozygous क्या होगा? One identical कैसे होगा? Non-identical. When pair of chromosome contains two contrasting alleles. When pair of chromosome contains two contrasting allele. Contrasting allele for a gene. Now, try understanding my question. यहाँ पे I gave you an example where this character has 3 traits. Or say the other way, the gene has 3 alleles. I talk about one more example. Say suppose I talk about here skin color, which has 27 alleles. 27 traits and 27 alleles. So, एक pair of chromosome, in one pair of chromosome, how many alleles can be accommodated? Okay, check. Understand? Did you understand my question? I said I was talking about an example जहाँ पे this allele, these are all alleles, no? So here I said that this gene has 3 alleles. I may talk about one more example. For example, say the skin color. Skin color, I may write down skin color here, which has 27 alleles like this. So in a pair of chromosome, how many alleles can be accommodated? Only 2. Whatever be the number of alleles, certain genes will have 20 alleles, certain genes will have 7 alleles, certain gene has 3 alleles, certain will have 25 alleles, but a pair of chromosome, in one pair of chromosome, how many alleles can be accommodated? Only 2 at a time. It is 2 chromosome making a pair. दो से ज़्यादा कभी arrange हो ही नहीं सकता. Dominant allele लिखो fast. What is the definition of dominant allele? What is the definition? A dominant allele is one. A dominant allele is one which can express. Express means it can show its characteristic. A dominant allele is one which can express both in a homozygous, which can express both in a homozygous as well as heterozygous condition, which can express both in the homozygous as well as heterozygous condition. Remember the other definition I already told you. What is the other definition of dominant allele? An allele which can express in presence of a contrasting allele. So, अगर ये definition है dominant allele का, then what should you write for the recessive allele? Next, only in homozygous condition. अगर recessive allele है, I write a pair of chromosome, I get to see that it is something like this. Heterozygous है ना? So अभी will this allele express?
No.
No. When will this express? Only when this is here. Can a recessive allele ever express in a heterozygous condition? No. So what should the definition be? A recessive allele is one which expresses only in the homozygous condition. लिखो. Recessive allele is one which expresses only in the homozygous condition. Recessive allele is one which expresses only in the homozygous condition. Now again, this is a pair of chromosome. We have been learning like this. This is a pair of chromosome. These are the alleles that I write using letters. What is the color of the eye? The color of the eye is brown. Can we see this brownness? Yes. This visual expression of the gene, ये एक पूरा gene है, a segment of the DNA. The visual expression of the gene, this is what is known as phenotype. What is phenotype? The visual expression. Now looking at you, when we look at ourselves, when we look at somebody, can we understand the hair texture, the skin color, the shape of the eye, nose, and then etc. The color of the eye? Yes, that is what is known as phenotype because we can see that. But looking at somebody, you get to see either the eye color to brown hai, but can you immediately understand whether the person is homozygous or heterozygous for the brown color? No, क्योंकि That is solely because of the type of alleles that he or she has in the chromosome. So I would write the pair of alleles like this using letters. What is this known as? This is known as genotype. What is phenotype and what is genotype? Phenotype is something that we can see. Quite a number of times, phenotype typically we cannot see also. If I say the amount of the ADH released inside the body, no, we cannot see that. The amount of the hemoglobin and the amount of the pepsin released, that ये भी तो character है, but ये हमें दिखाई नहीं देता है. But the typical definition of the word phenotype is expression of a gene. What is the expression of the gene? Brown color of the eye. That is what is phenotype. So how do we define this word? Phenotype क्या है? The visible expression of a gene. What do we write for phenotype? Phenotype is always the visible expression of a gene. This is known as phenotype. Then what is genotype? Genotype is the pair of allele. The pair of allele in the chromosome. The pair of allele in the chromosome pair. That is what is known as the pair of allele. The allele combination क्या है in the chromosome pair? That is what is genotype. Clear? So now, when we are talking about all these words, you have to remember all these concepts: homozygous, heterozygous, dominant, recessive, phenotype, genotype, and then we try understanding the next part of the chapter. यहाँ तक कुछ doubt है? है कोई doubt? Confusion है? How do we write down the genotype? Using only letters. As of now, we are only talking about such examples. They can be written in variety of combination of letters, numbers. And when we are writing down the color, the shape, the type, the name of the pigment, etc., that becomes the phenotype. Yeah. Now, when we are talking about with this concept, now we have to understand Mendel's laws of inheritance. 3 basic laws and their expressions in the form of crosses that we'll have to learn. When we are talking about Gregor Johann Mendel. Gregor Johann Mendel. You'll have to remember this name. ये मेंडल पे आंसर पेपर में मेंडलिव हो जाता है. क्यों हो जाता है? वो केमिस्ट्री और बायोलॉजी का हाइब्रिड बन जाता है एग्जाम के टाइम पे ना. GREGOR ग्रेगोर जोहान मेंडल. GRE समझ में नहीं आ रहा है?
अभी आ
रोहन सुनाइए. थैंक गॉड. ऐसे लिखना भी मत रोहन, तो बोलो घूमते भी आएगा कौन? बायोलॉजी टीचर ने रोहन पढ़ाया. So now when we are talking about Gregor Johann Mendel, who was he? He was a monk. Sadhu created history. So now when we are talking about Gregor Johann Mendel, he was a monk, and just to remember, when you read the first paragraph in your textbook also you come across a little bit there. So Gregor Johann Mendel, he was a monk, and in his monastery he used to observe certain plants and their basic characteristics. Out of so many different type of plants, these type of plants known as the garden pea. What is the common name? Garden pea. Garden pea plants. The common pea seed that we eat, that only. The garden pea plant, what is the biological name to write? This you are asked. And many students make a mistake. इसमें भी photosynthesis के equation में mistake. जो basic छोटे छोटे concepts उसमें mistake होता है. So हाँ वही तो क्वेश्चन है.
मैंने ही किया सर क्या है
हाँ सर क्या आया?
फोटोसिंथेसिस के फॉर्मूला
इक्वेशन में मिस्टेक किया अभी 10 बार दिखाऊंगी बोल.
वो बैलेंस करने में मिस्टेक हो गया
बैलेंसिंग नहीं होता है बायोलॉजिकल इक्वेशन में बैलेंस नहीं चाहिए होता है ये.
उसमें लिखा था राइट अ बैलेंस केमिकल इक्वेशन
अरे बैलेंस नहीं होता है मैंने when I taught you I told you also this. It comes as a question, write down the balanced chemical equation, but वही typical equation लिखना होता है. Don't start counting the number of moles and the atoms there. नहीं चाहिए. Only the typical equation you write. Now, what is it? The biological name. All of you write down this, and you will not get that 1 mark if you don't write it properly. Physum, sativum, and now. Biological nomenclature you all have not studied. Not a problem, not a big loss also. But you have to remember this to underline this way. Biological name when they are asking in the paper to write down the biological name. ये इसको बोलते हैं Physum. Sativum. SATIVUM. अंडरलाइन करके लिखना होता है अदरवाइज यू विल लूज मार्क्स दे.
अच्छा अंडरलाइन
जाएगा क्योंकि बायोलॉजिकल नेम्स डिड यू एवर सी बायोलॉजिकल नेम्स इटैलिक्स में लिखा हुआ रहता है. हाँ देखा है ना. तो हम तो इटैलिक्स में नहीं लिखते हैं. सो द रूल दैट वी फॉलो वी हैव टू फॉलो. इट्स नॉट माय रूल. इट इज द बायोलॉजिकल रूल. हमेशा अंडरलाइन और ये टू बी अंडरलाइन एंड ये कैपिटल में देखो and ये small letter. These are the rules of binomial nomenclature. Your teacher will cut marks after that. Don't start arguing. कुछ नहीं हो सकता if you don't follow this. So how you are supposed to write? Capital P, remember? Small s. Capital P, small s, underline. These are rules of binomial nomenclature. If you write any biological name of a plant animal, हमेशा capital, genus name हमेशा capital, species name हमेशा small letter से start and then underline. Remember, this is a very basic thing, but you end up losing marks. Now, when we are talking about this particular plant, Mendel had started experimenting on these plants. Why? And hence the law that we understand, variety of 3 major laws that he had put forward, working, experimenting on these plants. Now, what was the reason? Why did he select these plants? The reason for selecting Physum sativum was, number 1, 3 reasons you are asked. Straight away for 3 mark question. कितना easy है CBSE के लिए?
बहुत अच्छी बात है.
हाँ किसने बोला?
युवराज.
3 marks straight away to write down for 3 marks straight away to write just 3 major points there. What are the reasons? The reasons you have to write. The lifespan is short. Lifespan is short. Number 2. They exhibit seven pairs of contrasting traits. 7 pairs of contrasting traits. They are self-pollinating. They are self-pollinating, and these plants can be artificially cross-pollinated. Can be artificially cross-pollinated. तो ये based on the mark you will write. 2 reason पूछा गया है. You will write 2 points. 3 reasons, 3 points to write down. So what are the reasons for choosing these plants for his experiments? Lifespan short. That's one of the major point always to write. Lifespan short and 7 pairs of contrasting traits. Lifespan short, what is the significance? A particular type of an animal or a plant which is always selected as a experimental plant or an animal should always have a short lifespan. Can you tell me why? Experimental animals and plants always are known to have short lifespan. क्यों?
Result जल्दी.
Result jaldi milega. Something like when I talk about a plant which has got a long lifespan, the person who is experimenting on has to wait for long years to see the expression of the trait or the character. So that's the reason we have never come across plants with long lifespan like the banyan and all. Kabhi experiment kabhi suna hai? Did we ever study? No. Because these are plants with long lifespan. These are not a good experimental material at all. Even for animals, experiments जिसपे वो किया जाता है, always they are known to have a shorter lifespan. Now, the guinea pig enough. So now when we are talking about what are the 7 pairs of contrasting traits, we just complete with this. The 7 pairs of contrasting traits. The 7 pairs of contrasting traits. You have this in the volume also, in the book also, and this is important, you will have to remember. What is the character and what are the traits? Let me just talk about the character. The character, if I take height, the traits are tall, dwarf. Second is color of seed. Color of seed, that is yellow and green. Third, color of the pod. Pod means the outer leafy cover. That is green and yellow. Color of the flower. And ये याद रखना है. Purple and white. Position of the flower. Terminal and axial. We'll talk about, axial and terminal. We'll talk about this the next class. We just finish with these names. Axial and terminal. Next is shape of the seed, round and wrinkled. And the last one, shape of the green cover, the pod, that is known as inflated and constricted. How to write down the alleles will take up next class. Abhi, only the words we wind up with this. These names you'll have to remember. Are you sure this is not your book?